Sunnyvale Dreams and Lily's Wish. The sun blazed down, baking the asphalt of the park as Tom strummed his guitar, a familiar comfort against his legs. Lily, a short distance away, was absorbed in her art, charcoal dust smudging her cheek. He played a cheerful, rambling melody, a patchwork of borrowed riffs and original flourishes. A few coins clinked into the guitar case at his feet, meager offerings that still mattered. Lily's soft humming was his accompaniment as her pencil danced across the paper. The ornate carousel, a riot of color against the green, was her subject, each painted steed catching the light differently. "Dad," she said, her voice level but distant. Mr. Henderson phoned again. The music stuttered, a discordant note hanging in the air. "Oh? What did he say this time?" "Just checking about the medicine money. He mentioned running low and not wanting me to miss a dose." Tom's chest tightened. Henderson was a kind man, but the constant reminders felt like a weight pressing down. "Tell him I'm on it, okay? Tell him I appreciate his patience." Lily nodded, her attention glued to the carousel's whirling fantasy. "He said it was all right, but supplies are dwindling." A sigh escaped Tom, silencing the music. He launched into a more energetic, almost frantic tune, hoping to coax more generosity from the crowd. He kept an eye on Lily. So slight, yet possessed of an unbreakable spirit. He'd move mountains for her. Later, the aroma of reheated spaghetti filled their small Sunnyvale apartment. Lily's cough, a harsh, dry sound, always sent a chill through him. "How are you feeling, sweetie?" he asked, placing a plate before her. "All right," she replied, picking at the noodles. "Just a bit tired. Take it easy this evening. How about that movie you love?" A spark lit her eyes. "The one with the singing dog?" "The one and only." He manufactured a smile, burying his anxiety deep. He needed to be her rock. "Mr. Henderson will have the medicine tomorrow, right?" she asked softly. Tom hesitated just a fraction. "Most definitely. I'm picking up extra shifts at the diner. We'll sort it out." It was a promise he wasn't sure he could keep. He was already stretched thin. As dusk settled, they sat by the window watching the sky deepen in color. The heady fragrance of jasmine drifted in from the neighboring balcony. The first star emerged, a tiny point of light. "Make a wish, Dad," Lily urged, pointing. Tom chuckled wryly. "I don't know, sweetie. Wishes rarely come true." "Maybe this one will," she insisted, her eyes alight with hope. "Close your eyes and wish really, really hard." Tom obeyed, but his mind refused to conjure a believable outcome. He wished for a miracle, a solution that would lift the burden and allow Lily to simply be a child. Lily, her gaze locked on the distant star, voiced her own silent plea. "I wish my dad didn't have to work so hard," she murmured, her words lost in the city's low thrum. "I wish he could be happy." A proposal from a princess. The crystal chandelier in Stella's ballroom cast 1,000 fractured reflections on the polished marble floor. Each glint felt like a tiny shard of ice, mirroring the chill in her heart. Another gala, another parade of sycophants vying for her attention, all eager to bask in the glow of the Kensington fortune. She watched them from the grand staircase, a champagne flute untouched in her hand. The music swelled, a lilting waltz that only amplified her isolation. What was the point of all this extravagance when there was no one to share it with, no genuine laughter to fill these cavernous rooms? "Candidate files, Miss Kensington," Miss Davies announced, her voice crisp and efficient as she laid a stack of dossiers on the mahogany table. Mr. Abernathy hovered nervously, adjusting his tie. Stella sighed, pushing aside the uneaten canapes. "Let's just get this over with." Photos of smiling, polished men stared back at her. Doctors, lawyers, a few trust fund babies. All perfectly acceptable, perfectly boring. "He ticks all the boxes, Miss Kensington," Mr. Abernathy said, pointing to a photo of a man with kind eyes and a slightly crooked smile. "Thomas Baker. 32. Single parent. No unsavory history." Stella picked up his file. The picture wasn't professional, more like a candid shot. He was holding a young girl with bright, inquisitive eyes. Lily, his daughter. There was a softness in his expression, a vulnerability that was missing from all the others. "His background check is impeccable," Miss Davies added. "Works as a handyman, plays guitar in a local pub on weekends." Stella paused. A handyman? A musician? So far removed from her world. Intriguing. "Bring him in," she said, surprising even herself. The next day, Tom Baker stood awkwardly in Stella's study, surrounded by priceless antiques and walls lined with leather-bound books. He wore a slightly too big suit that looked like it had been borrowed for the occasion. He fiddled with the collar, his gaze darting around the room, avoiding hers. Stella observed him, perched on the edge of her desk. He looked nervous, out of place. "Perfect. Mr. Baker," she began, her voice cool and businesslike. "I understand you're aware of the unusual nature of this meeting?" He swallowed hard. Miss Kensington, I'm not entirely sure what you're implying. Stella steepled her fingers. Let me be blunt. I require a husband, a temporary one, for business purposes. In exchange, I am prepared to offer a generous compensation. Tom's eyebrows shot up. He looked utterly bewildered. A husband? You want to marry me? A legal arrangement, Mr. Baker. Nothing more. Think of it as a business transaction. Contract. He ran a hand through his hair, dislodging a few strands. I don't understand. Why me? You fit the profile, Stella said smoothly, though a flicker of something akin to guilt crossed her face. And I believe you have financial obligations. She knew about Lily's ongoing treatment, the mounting medical bills. Tom's eyes narrowed. You know about Lily? My assistants are very thorough. Stella stood up and walked towards the window looking out at the manicured gardens. I am offering you a chance to secure your daughter's future, Mr. Baker. Complete financial security. All I require in return is your cooperation. He stared at her, his expression unreadable. The silence stretched, thick with unspoken questions and a desperate hope that clung to the air. Finally he spoke, his voice barely a whisper. What kind of cooperation are we talking about, Miss Kensington? Fish out of water. The wrought iron gates yielded soundlessly and the obsidian town car ghosted up the lengthy, serpentine drive. Lily's breath fogged the windowpane. Dad, it's colossal. Bigger than the Magic Kingdom. A chuckle rumbled from Tom, though apprehension coiled in his gut. The estate dwarfed any photograph. Kensington Manor wasn't merely grand, it was a gauntlet fist of granite and gloom. He squeezed Lily's hand. Best behavior, Squirt. Disembarking felt akin to entering a dream. The air, thick with rose perfume and a tang of ozone, pressed down on him. A woman, their allocated suite radiated extravagance. Lily's chamber, a confection of pastel hues and frothy lace. Tom's, adjoining, possessed a starker masculinity, all heavy mahogany and somber draperies. A complex control panel beside the bed governed everything from the ambient lighting to the climate to, he peered, the shutters across the courtyard. He nudged a button experimentally and a fountain erupted in a vibrant kaleidoscope of luminescence. He stabbed the button again. Dinner bordered on the theatrical. Tom, acutely uncomfortable in the borrowed suit Stella had mandated, grappled with the array of cutlery. Lily, bless her heart, was navigating the etiquette minefield with valiant effort, though the sheer number of forks posed a challenge. Stella, presiding at the long, gleaming table, moved with unsettling precision, a study in elegant stillness. The house schedule is posted in the butler's pantry, she stated, her voice a glacial stream. Adherence is expected. Breakfast commences promptly at 7. Lily's studies begin at 9. Dinner is at 7:30. Tom managed to swallow a mouthful of indiscernible protein. Understood. 7 sharp. He caught Lily attempting to conquer an asparagus spear with a spoon, disguising his amusement with a cough. Later, after Lily was tucked in, Tom found himself adrift in the silent mansion. He gravitated towards what resembled a library, walls lined with antique tomes that likely outstripped the value of his car. He selected a volume at random, a pristine first edition Dickens, and replaced it with exaggerated care. This place, it felt like inhabiting a museum after hours. Leaning against a shelf, weariness threatened to consume him. He longed for his compact, familiar apartment, the cozy aroma of Lily's crayons and the comforting weight of his old guitar. He missed the familiar melody of their lives, the simple reassurance of knowing where everything belonged. He retrieved his phone, stifling the urge to dial his old bandmates. The screen's stark radiance illuminated his tired face. He had a part to play now. He needed to master the script, decipher the nuances of this gilded cage. For Lily's sake, he had to embody the husband, the guardian, the billionaire's facade. He only hoped he didn't shatter anything in the process. Charm school for dads. All right, Baker, Stella declared, clapping her hands with the briskness of a drill sergeant. Today we were fine. Starting with posture. Stand up straight. Shoulders back. Chin up. You look like you're perpetually apologizing for existing. Tom straightened so abruptly he nearly toppled backward. Like this, he grunted, his neck stiff. Stella winced. No. More, regal. Imagine your royalty accepting tributes. He puffed out his chest, imagining offering a half-eaten hot dog to the queen. How's this, your majesty? Stella sighed, the sound like air escaping a punctured tire. Let's move on. Dining etiquette. Silverware. Starting from the outside in. She gestured to the intimidating array of forks and knives laid out on the mahogany dining table. Tom stared at them, bewildered. Looks like a cutlery convention. The lesson devolved into a comedy of errors. Tom mistook the fish fork for a tiny shovel, nearly launched a spoonful of soup across the room during a demonstration of proper dipping technique, and loudly slurped his tea, oblivious to Stella's horrified expression. And for heaven's sake, Stella finally sputtered, "Do not rest your elbows on the table." Later, in the drawing room, Stella attempted to teach him the proper way to hold a wine glass. Tom, distracted by a nearby hummingbird flitting around a vibrant bouquet of orchids, turned too quickly and clipped a delicate porcelain vase. It teetered, then crashed to the floor in a shower of ceramic shards. Stella gasped, her face paling. That was a Ming Dynasty vase. Tom's face flushed crimson. "Oh, geez, Stella, I am so sorry. I'll pay for it, I promise. Or, I could try to glue it back together? I'm pretty handy." Stella just stared at the debris, her carefully constructed composure crumbling. Just go. Go practice your waltz or something. I need a moment." He shuffled out, muttering apologies. He felt like a bull in a china shop, a very clumsy, apologetic bull. Later that evening, Stella found Tom in the music room, his guitar in hand. He was gently strumming a lullaby, his brow furrowed in concentration. "Couldn't sleep," he explained, glancing up. "Figured I'd work on something for Lily." He played a few more bars, then stopped, looking sheepish. "I know this whole thing is weird, and I'm probably not what you expected." Stella leaned against the doorframe, watching him. In the soft light, he didn't look like a clumsy oaf. He looked like a dad, a good one, trying his best. "You're not," she admitted quietly. "But Lily seems to genuinely adore you. And that does mean something." He smiled, a genuine, unguarded smile that crinkled the corners of his eyes. "She's pretty great. Makes putting up with etiquette lessons worthwhile." He strummed a chord. "Maybe tomorrow we can skip the silverware and just build a fort?" Stella considered it. A fort undoubtedly constructed with questionable structural integrity and an abundance of mismatched blankets sounded infinitely more appealing than another excruciating afternoon of forced gentility. Perhaps, she conceded, a small smile playing on her lips. Maybe there was more to this arrangement than she initially thought. Garden friends and secret plans. The sprawling gardens were a maze of fragrant roses, manicured hedges, and hidden pathways. Lily, released from the stuffy formality of the mansion, was in her element. She'd quickly befriended Mrs. Higgins, a stout woman with dirt under her fingernails and a smile as warm as the afternoon sun, and young Thomas, no relation to her father, who wielded a pair of hedge clippers with surprising artistry. "Ready or not, here I come," Lily called, her voice echoing between the lavender bushes. Mrs. Higgins chuckled, tucking a stray strand of gray hair behind her ear. Young Thomas simply grinned, already disappearing behind a towering topiary shaped like a peacock. Lily giggled, darting behind a rose trellis, the sweet scent filling her lungs. It felt normal. Stella watched from the terrace, a delicate teacup trembling slightly in her hand. She hadn't ventured into the gardens in years, finding them a constant reminder of her mother's obsession with perfection. But Lily's laughter was infectious, a bright, untamed melody that drew her in. Hesitantly, she descended the stone steps, the click of her heels muted by the soft grass. Lily, spotting her, abandoned her hiding place. "Stella, come play." Stella hesitated. I don't really know how to play hide-and-seek." Lily's face fell. "It's easy. You just hide and someone tries to find you." She grabbed Stella's hand, pulling her towards a gnarled old apple tree. "This is a good hiding spot. Nobody will think to look here." Stella leaned against the rough bark, a surprising sense of peace washing over her. She watched Lily and the gardeners, their faces flushed with exertion and amusement. Soon, Lily was telling her elaborate stories about the fairies that lived in the rose bushes, their tiny wings sparkling with dew. Stella found herself laughing, a genuine, unforced sound that she hadn't heard in years. She told Lily about her childhood, about the endless piano lessons and etiquette classes, about the loneliness hidden behind the gilded gates of Kensington Manor. As dusk began to settle, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, a shadow fell over the idyllic scene. Mr. Grumbles, a portly man with a perpetually sour expression, stood on the edge of the garden, partially obscured by the trees. He watched Stella and Lily with narrowed eyes, his lips pursed in disapproval. He muttered to himself, "Playing in the dirt? That's hardly the image of a serious businesswoman. This deal is going to be easier than I thought." He reached into his pocket, pulling out a small, intricately carved wooden box. Inside, nestled amongst velvet lining, was a collection of compromising photographs, staged, of course, but damaging nonetheless. He had paid handsomely to have them created. The plan was simple: leak the photos to the press just before the final negotiations, casting doubt on Stella's competence and forcing her business partners to reconsider. He smiled, a cruel, calculating expression that twisted his features. Let's see how Kensington likes a little scandal. He slipped back into the shadows, his footsteps silent on the damp earth, leaving the sweet scent of roses tainted with the bitter aroma of malice. The sneaky plot unveiled. Tom drifted through the Kensington library, hoping his scuffed shoes and threadbare jacket didn't scream imposter. Stella had tasked him with finding something cerebral, a far cry from the chemistry set manual he'd been wrestling with for Lily's sake. Lost in the labyrinth of towering shelves, he inhaled the scent of decaying paper and shelved histories. Rounding a corner, he nearly plowed into Mr. Grumbles, Stella's lawyer, whose default expression was permanent disapproval. Sorry, Tom mumbled, recoiling slightly. Grumbles, usually radiating icy composure, was visibly shaken, a crimson tide rising in his cheeks. Phone pressed to his ear, he spat venomous words in a low voice. The agreement is unbreakable for 12 months. Afterwards? A mishap. Untraceable back to us. The shares revert precisely as agreed. Tom stiffened. This wasn't meant for his ears. Retreating, he nudged a bookcase. A hefty tome slipped, hitting the floor with a dull crash. Grumbles spun around, eyes now sharp, obsidian chips. Who's there? Heart pounding a frantic rhythm, Tom fumbled for the fallen book. Just me, Grumbles. Browsing. His voice hitched, betraying his composure. The lawyer pinned him with a gaze sharp enough to draw blood. Find your reading material and allow me to conduct my business, Baker. He swiveled away, resuming his muffled conversation, the words now indecipherable. Book clutched tight, Tom edged away, his mind a whirlwind. A mishap? Involving Stella? Suddenly, disparate pieces clicked, the desperate plea in her eyes when she accepted his proposal, Grumble's ever-present shadow, the way she seemed trapped within her privileged life. This was no mere business transaction, her safety was at stake. He fled the library, stomach twisting into knots. He had to warn her. But how? He was just Tom Baker, a struggling musician, a devoted father. He possessed no wealth, no clout, no influence to speak of. Just a battered guitar, a mountain of debt, and a long-dormant protective instinct now roaring to life. He located Stella in the sunroom, gazing at the immaculate gardens, an exquisite, breakable doll. He longed to seize her, shake her into action, urge her to flee. But impulsivity would only worsen things. Stella, he began, his tone low and charged. We need to speak. He drew a steadying breath. About Grumbles. He saw a fleeting shadow of fear in her eyes, quickly veiled by a veneer of calm. What about him, Tom? He decided to dispense with subtlety. I overheard him on the phone. He mentioned an accident. After the year is up. The blood drained from Stella's face. She averted her gaze, her hands trembling like aspen leaves. You must have misheard. I didn't, Tom insisted, his voice firm. Stella, he's plotting something. You're in peril. She met his eyes at last, a chilling blend of fear and weary acceptance swirling within them. I know. A wave of fury washed over Tom, colliding with a fierce surge of protectiveness. He might lack riches and power, but he possessed something Grumbles clearly lacked, an unflinching resolve to defend what mattered. He wouldn't allow her to navigate this nightmare alone. He would not permit her to become another casualty, a statistic in the ruthless game of greed and dominance. He felt ill-equipped for the coming battle, but he was a master of improvisation. Then we're going to unravel this, he declared, his voice unwavering. Together. Talent show triumph. Lily swirled the last smears of pancake syrup on her plate. Talent show at the community center next week, she announced. Tom perked up immediately, setting down his mug. Oh? Sounds like a blast. Sarah's got a magic act, Lily continued, eyes fixed on the tabletop. Ben's juggling. Loads of kids are signing up. Any thoughts about joining the fun? Tom inquired softly. Lily's gaze snapped up, her eyes wide and apprehensive. I'd love to. But I just couldn't. Too petrifying. Petrifying how, little one? All those eyes on me. I might flub the lyrics. My voice could crack. What if they boo? Her chin quivered. Tom scooted his chair closer, enfolding her small hand in his. Hey, now. You possess an incredible voice, Lilybug. Remember Grandma's birthday serenade? Everyone was mesmerized. That was just family, she demurred. Exactly. They're the toughest critics. We're brimming with love, hence extra scrutiny, right? He gave her a playful wink. We can rehearse, kiddo. Daily. Just us. And if you still feel hesitant, zero pressure, all right? Evenings blossomed into impromptu concerts. Tom, with his trusty, well-worn guitar, assisted Lily in selecting a piece, a tender ballad about camaraderie. He patiently guided her through challenging passages, using humor and encouragement to soothe her anxieties. With each run-through, Lily visibly unwound, her voice gaining strength and resonance. The talent show dawned, a dizzying kaleidoscope of blinking lights and whispered anxieties. Backstage, Lily's fingers were locked around Tom's, bone white. Kneeling, he met her gaze, his eyes radiating warmth. "You've got this, Lily. Trust your practice. And if you blank on a line, improvise? No one will be the wiser." Mr. Grumbles, the notoriously ill-tempered proprietor of the local hardware emporium, lumbered past, grumbling about amateur theatrics and sonic assault. He appeared to be tinkering around the amplifier. When Lily's name echoed through the hall, she froze solid. Tom gave her a gentle nudge forward. "Knock 'em dead, tiger." She stepped into the spotlight, a blinding glare. The audience dissolved into a blur. As the opening chords struck, her voice wavered precariously. She faltered through the initial stanza, her face burning with shame. Abruptly, the music sputtered and died, replaced by a shriek of feedback from the speakers. Mr. Grumbles stood near the mixing board, a self-satisfied smirk plastered across his face. Lily was consumed by panic. Tears threatened to spill. She was about to flee when a figure gracefully swept past. Stella Kensington, radiant in a shimmering emerald gown, claimed the microphone. "Well, isn't this a predicament?" Stella declared, her voice surprisingly potent and steady. "Lily, dear, your voice is a gift. How about we perform this piece together, a cappella?" Lily gaped, speechless. Stella offered a reassuring wink before launching into song. Her rich alto resonated through the room, a beacon of confidence and poise. Emboldened, Lily joined in. Their voices intertwined, an unexpected and beautiful harmony filling the sudden void. The audience, initially stunned into silence, began to clap in time, their faces illuminating with delight. Mr. Grumbles glowered, his sabotage thwarted. As the final note lingered, the room erupted in applause, a wave of warmth and approval. Standing beside Stella, Lily felt a rush of elation, not merely for the performance itself, but for conquering her fear. She squeezed Stella's hand, a silent expression of gratitude passing between them. A change of heart. The echo of Lily's small, clear voice singing carols still lingered in the Kensington mansion, a stark contrast to the usual hushed silence. Stella sat curled on the absurdly large chaise lounge in her dressing room, the silk cool against her skin. She hadn't changed out of her dress from the concert, the memory of Lily's panicked face dissolving into relief as they sang together, playing on repeat in her mind. Before Tom and Lily, this room, this house, had been a monument to her success, a glittering cage built of designer furniture and priceless art. Now it felt empty. Hollow. She traced the intricate embroidery on a throw pillow, a piece she'd once coveted for its rarity, and felt nothing. The scent of pine needles drifted from downstairs, a cheerful aroma utterly foreign to the antiseptic cleanliness she usually demanded. She pictured Lily, her cheeks flushed with excitement, carefully placing ornaments on the tree, Tom hovering nearby, offering gentle guidance. A pang of something akin to grief squeezed her chest. A soft knock on the door broke through her reverie. It was Tom. "Hey," he said, his voice a low rumble. He leaned against the doorframe, his hands shoved deep in his pockets, looking endearingly awkward in his slightly too tight suit. "Lily's finally down." She was buzzing like a hummingbird after that performance. Stella managed a weak smile. "She was wonderful." "She was terrified," Tom corrected gently. "But you saved her." "Thank you, Stella." The sincerity in his eyes was unnerving. "It was nothing." He pushed off the doorframe and walked towards her, stopping a few feet away. "It wasn't nothing to her. Or to me." He hesitated, then continued, "Listen, about the arrangement. We should probably start talking about the next steps." The words hung in the air, heavy and final. The next steps. Lawyers. Paperwork. Goodbyes. It was what she wanted, wasn't it? A clean break. A return to her perfectly ordered life. Except suddenly it wasn't. "Tom," she began, her voice barely a whisper. I'm going to miss you both." He blinked, surprised. "Miss us? But you'll be back to your normal life. Your real life." "This is my real life, Tom," she said, the words tumbling out. "And it's been better. Brighter. More real since you and Lily came into it." She looked down at her hands, twisting the fabric of her dress. "I know this was supposed to be temporary, a business transaction. But I'm actually sad that it's ending." The confession felt surprisingly liberating and utterly terrifying. Tom didn't say anything for a long moment. He simply stared at her, his expression unreadable. The silence stretched, punctuated only by the distant crackle of the fire downstairs. Finally, he spoke, his voice soft. "Stella, He stopped, searching for the right words. "This is complicated. A real family." The echo of applause lingered, a sweet resonance of their shared triumph. Lily, cheeks rosy with excitement, already buzzed about celebratory pizza, but Stella's gaze remained locked on Tom. He watched Lily, a tender smile gracing his features, oblivious to the tempest swirling within Stella. Gratitude had long since morphed into something deeper, richer. Stella cleared her throat, the sound swallowed by Lily's exuberant chatter. "Tom?" He turned, hazel eyes meeting hers. "Yeah, Stell?" She inhaled deeply, the carefully constructed speech she had practiced evaporating on her tongue. "That wasn't just singing, Tom. It felt true. And Lily warrants truth. We all do." Stella hesitated, her pulse hammering a frantic rhythm. "Tom, that contract, it provided Lily with security, and I value that, but I realize I crave more. Will you marry me? Genuinely?" Tom blinked, his gentle amusement giving way to slack-jawed astonishment. He stammered, then regrouped. "Stella, are you serious?" Stella affirmed with a firm nod. "Never more so. I love you, Tom. I love Lily. And I desire us to be a bona fide family." The silence that ensued was profound. Suddenly, a shriek of unadulterated delight pierced the quiet. Lily hurled herself at Stella, clinging to her legs. "Yes. Please, Daddy, say yes. Let's be a real family." Tom's face blossomed into a radiant smile. He knelt, drawing both Stella and Lily into a warm embrace. "Yes," he affirmed, his voice thick with emotion. "Yes, 1,000 times over." Lily bounced with glee, clapping her hands. "We need a cake. And a party. And a proper wedding gown." Stella chuckled, tears welling in her eyes. "We can have all of that, Lilybug." But first, she turned to Tom, cradling his face in her palms. "First, we have each other." The lure of after-party pizza faded as they returned to their humble apartment, a palpable sense of belonging infusing the once constricted space. Tom retrieved his guitar, plucking a delicate, joyful tune. Lily, nestled between Stella and Tom on the worn sofa, hummed along. As the music swelled, Stella surveyed her fledgling family. The shifting lamplight cast playful patterns on the walls, highlighting the modest decor and the vibrant love connecting them. The penthouse, the haute couture, the endless resources, inconsequential. This, right here, was authentic wealth. A legitimate family forged not in contractual obligations but with affection, mirth, and the steadfast promise of forever. The melody transitioned into a familiar lullaby and Lily yawned, snuggling closer to her parents. As Tom's voice and guitar gently serenaded them, Stella knew with unwavering conviction that their haven would be built not of gilded excess but of the strength of their bond.